It started with a yellow slip of paper taped to my front door. In bold block letters it read, "Notice of violation, unregistered animal on property." I frowned as I read it again, trying to process the accusation. My dog, Ranger, was not just registered. He was my partner. A Belgian Malinois, sharp-eyed and alert, Ranger wasn't your ordinary pet. He had spent years working alongside me as a K-9 officer before I retired from the force. I looked across the street and wasn't surprised to see Karen, the HOA board president, peeking through her blinds. She'd had it out for me since the day I moved in. First, she complained about the noise when Ranger barked at a prowler. Then, it was the danger of having such a large dog in the neighborhood. And now, apparently, she was escalating things with official notices. Later that evening, while watering my front yard, she marched over with her clipboard in hand. "You can't keep that dog here," she announced, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Why not?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Ranger sat obediently by my side, not moving a muscle. "It's in the HOA bylaws. No aggressive breeds." I raised an eyebrow. "He's a retired service animal. He's trained better than most people's kids." Karen sniffed. "Doesn't matter. The rules are the rules. If you don't comply, we'll fine you, and possibly escalate to animal control." I could feel my patience thinning, but I didn't argue. I just smiled. "We'll see about that." The next morning, the situation took an unexpected turn. A police cruiser pulled up outside my house. Karen stood nearby, arms crossed, a smug grin on her face. Clearly, she had wasted no time making that call. The officer stepped out, but before he could even say a word, Ranger stood at attention. With a single command from me, he executed a flawless obedience drill. Sit, down, heel, watch. The officer's eyes widened. Then he did something Karen never expected. He snapped to attention, gave Ranger a sharp salute, and said with a grin, "Good to see a fellow K-9 trainer in the neighborhood." Karen's smile vanished instantly. I crossed my arms. "Still think he doesn't belong here?" The look on her face told me this battle was far from over. Karen didn't take humiliation lightly. The day after the officer saluted Ranger, she called for an emergency HOA meeting. Flyers appeared on every front door, all stamped with her signature red pen. The headline read, "Neighborhood Safety Alert, Dangerous Animal Threat." When I saw it, I almost laughed. Ranger was stretched out on the porch, lazily gnawing his chew toy, hardly the menace she made him out to be. But I knew Karen. She thrived on drama and fear. If she couldn't convince the HOA with bylaws, she'd stir the neighbors with gossip. That evening, the meeting hall was full. Karen stood at the front like a general addressing her troops, waving pictures of Ranger. "This is no ordinary dog," she declared. "This animal is a liability. He could attack children, ruin property, or worse. Do you want to risk that in our community?" I raised my hand. "He's a certified service animal, trained for obedience and protection. Ranger has more discipline than half the people here." A few chuckles rippled through the crowd, but Karen shot me a glare sharp enough to silence them. "Don't be fooled," she snapped. "Dangerous breeds always snap eventually. I've already filed paperwork to escalate this. The HOA has every right to enforce removal." The murmurs grew louder. Some neighbors looked uneasy, others skeptical. One older man finally spoke up. "Karen, with all due respect, that dog saved my granddaughter last week. He barked until we noticed she'd slipped out near the street. If it weren't for him, who knows what could have happened?" Karen froze. The room shifted. Suspicion turned into support. I could see her jaw tighten as the tide slipped out of her control. "Coincidence," she muttered, but her voice lacked conviction. The meeting ended with no resolution, but I knew Karen wasn't finished. Sure enough, the very next morning, I caught her snapping photos of my yard. She scribbled notes furiously, probably building her case. By afternoon, another letter arrived. This one was harsher. "Final warning. Remove dog immediately or face legal consequences." I shook my head. Ranger wagged his tail, oblivious. But when the weekend rolled around, things escalated. A white van pulled up, marked County Animal Services. Out stepped two men with catch poles and crates. Karen trailed behind, practically glowing with self-satisfaction. "Time's up," she said, smirking. "They're here to take him away." Ranger didn't move, but his sharp eyes locked on the men. I felt my stomach twist, but I wasn't about to let anyone drag him off. "Before you try," I said evenly, "you might want to hear who trained him, and why the county is about to side with me." "Not you!" Karen blinked, confused. The men exchanged glances. The battle had just shifted to my turf. The two animal control officers hesitated at the curb, their catch poles dangling awkwardly. They weren't eager to approach Ranger, who sat calmly by my side, ears perked and eyes focused. Karen, however, couldn't contain her glee. "Well, don't just stand there," she ordered. "Take the mutt. He's a danger to this neighborhood." One of the officers cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we need to speak with the owner first." "That's me," Karen snapped. No," the officer corrected, pointing at me. "He's the owner." Karen's face reddened, but she folded her arms, clearly unwilling to be sidelined. I stepped forward. "Gentlemen, I don't know what Karen's been telling you, but Ranger isn't some stray. He's a certified service dog, fully licensed, and he served with me on the police force for 7 years. The officer's eyes flickered with interest. I reached into my folder and pulled out Ranger's certification papers, laminated and official. "Not only that," I added, "but Ranger was awarded commendations for outstanding service. He's trained to protect, track, and assist. Frankly, he's more qualified to live in this neighborhood than half of us." Ranger, as if on cue, stood up and performed a perfect heel command at my side. He didn't bark, didn't lunge, just pure discipline. The younger officer smiled. "I've seen dogs trained by the K9 unit. They're no joke," Karen interjected, her voice shrill. "Trained or not, he's still dangerous. You can't just let him stay here. What about the safety of our children?" The older officer finally turned to her. "Ma'am, you called us here claiming there was an unregistered, aggressive animal. From what I see, that claim doesn't hold water. This dog is licensed, trained, and clearly under control." Her jaw dropped. You can't just ignore the HOA rules." "With all due respect," he said firmly, "we enforce county laws, not HOA preferences, and legally, this dog has every right to be here." Karen sputtered, her power slipping through her fingers. But he could attack at any moment." At that, the younger officer chuckled. "Actually, ma'am, if anything, this dog would save you if you were in danger. Dogs like him don't attack without reason. They protect." The neighbors, drawn by the commotion, began gathering on the sidewalks. Whispers turned into bold voices of agreement. "Leave the dog alone, Karen. He's safer than your HOA rules. That dog helped my kid last week." Karen's cheeks burned crimson. She turned on her heel and stormed back to her house, muttering something about lawsuits and ungrateful neighbors. The officers shook my hand before leaving. "Keep up the good work, sir. We're lucky to have people like you around." As the van drove off, I scratched Ranger's ears. "Looks like you're officially the neighborhood hero now, buddy." But deep down, I knew Karen wasn't finished. She had lost this round, but she was too stubborn to quit. And the next move she made would be bigger, bolder, and riskier. For a few weeks, things were quiet. Too quiet. Ranger and I went about our days. Early morning jogs, yard work, and the occasional wave from grateful neighbors. Still, I knew Karen was plotting. She was the kind who didn't forget a loss, especially not a public one. The storm came one Friday night. I was locking up when I heard shouting outside. Karen's voice cut through the air. "This is the last straw. That beast has to go." I stepped onto the porch and saw her standing in the middle of the street with a small group of HOA loyalists. In her hands, she clutched a stack of documents. "This," she shouted, waving the papers, "is an official petition. We demand the immediate removal of this dangerous animal. Signatures collected. Board approval pending. Tonight we end this menace." The neighbors stirred. Some looked uneasy, others outright annoyed. Before I could reply, a screech of tires echoed at the corner. A car barreled down the street, its headlights weaving dangerously. Karen froze. She was standing right in its path. Time seemed to slow. Without hesitation, Ranger lunged forward. His powerful body knocked her out of the way just as the car swerved and clipped a trash bin, speeding off into the night. Karen hit the ground with a gasp, stunned. Ranger stood over her protectively, growling low, eyes locked on the disappearing vehicle. I rushed over. "You okay?" I asked. Karen blinked up at me, trembling. He saved me." Neighbors poured into the street, murmuring in shock. One man pointed. "If it weren't for Ranger, she'd have been killed." The HOA loyalists shifted uncomfortably. The petition papers slipped from Karen's hands and scattered in the wind. I extended a hand to help her up. She hesitated, then took it. Her face was pale, her arrogance cracked. For once, she had no snappy retort, no sarcastic jab, just silence. Ranger returned to my side, tail wagging slightly, as if nothing had happened. The crowd erupted into applause. Kids ran up to pet Ranger. Adults shook my hand. And someone even shouted, "Best Neighbor Award goes to the dog." Karen, still shaken, muttered softly, I was wrong." She glanced at Ranger with something new in her eyes. Not fear, not disdain, but respect. From that day forward, the battle ended. No more notices, no more complaints. Karen didn't exactly become my friend, but she never said another word about Ranger. Instead, whenever she passed us on her evening walks, she gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of the hero who had saved her life. Ranger, of course, never cared about the drama. For him, it was simple: protect, serve, obey. And in that quiet neighborhood, the legend of the dangerous dog faded, replaced by the truth of a retired canine hero who still had plenty of fight left in him. Enjoying this wild HOA drama? Tap that subscribe button for more unbelievable neighborhood stories. If Ranger's bravery impressed you, give this a like. And tell me in the comments, what's the craziest HOA rule you've ever heard of?